and welcome to Lynes on Design. I'm Dr. Debbie Lynes, and we have a wonderful show in store for you today. We are talking with Alan Hammock. Thank you for joining us. We're talking EcoFoam. We're talking about spray insulation. And it's a treat. I think we're all a little chilly today. We've had a chance to talk ahead of time. And while in design, we're often interested in color and scale and furniture, we're talking nuts and bolts today, and we thank you very much. Let's get started and talk about this beautiful 3,600 square foot home.
Well, thank you, Debbie. We're excited to be here, and especially on location. We want to give thanks to Frank Stelzer and Stelzer Construction for allowing us to be in the attic of one of their new homes. We've chosen an attic to film on location today because
we can.
Because we can. Because it can be one of the greatest sources of energy waste in new construction homes and in existing homes.
And I think what's really interesting today, having you here, I've learned quite a bit. Can we talk first about what spray foam insulation is and isn't, and why in homes today it's so critical to use spray foam insulation?
I would love to, and I'd like to start by explaining some of the differences in traditional insulation methods versus how most builders are now building homes much more energy efficient. In traditional types of insulation, an attic area is usually vented. Because of that, it's exposed to not only temperatures, but the elements of the outside air. We do that through using traditional types of insulation. One of those I've got right here to show you is loose fill or blown in insulation. This is blown in, looks kind of like cotton candy when they're finished, and you would cover the attic floor with this type of insulation.
Is this what we're used to seeing? This is what I'm used to seeing.
Yeah, now the other more conventional method in homes now, they call bats, a fiberglass batten, and it would be slightly thicker than this, but once again would go down on the floor of the attic. One of the problems with this type of insulation, as well as with the blown-in insulation, is once again, because we're using a vented attic system, we're allowing the elements from the outside, as well as the cold or in the summer, the hot air, to get into the attic.
Let me ask you a couple of questions about that. Are there different kinds of spray foam insulation? I know you've got an example here.
We do. We've got an example of 3 different types of insulation right behind us here. The first of those is the traditional fiberglass bat insulation that you see in the middle. Some people call Pink Panther, just a brand. To the right, we have what is called open cell spray foam insulation. And then to the left is closed cell. And those are basically the 2 types of insulation in the spray foam.
All right, let's talk about reasons to use these 2 kinds of foam and some things that these kinds of insulation aren't doing correctly, or not correctly, but aren't really maximizing your efficiency.
That is exactly the case. They're not maximizing energy efficiency. And the biggest reason they're not is because they allow air infiltration and air leakage to occur, both air in and out. It is the #1 problem with traditional sources of insulation. The U.S. Department of Energy has stated that up to 30% of energy cost can be associated to air leakage. The largest part of that being up in the attic area, which again is why we're up in an attic today.
Let me ask you a question from a practical point of view, since we're here with builders. At what point do I choose, or do I choose what kind of insulation? Because I know, Alan, the more we've talked, the more, if I were building a new house, it would be critical that I do this.
When you're designing your home is when that decision is made. When you're pricing out a home is when you decide what company you want to choose.
Makes sense.
And of course, you always, when you're talking about spray foam insulation, want to make sure that you're dealing with a company that is not only professional, but trained and certified as well. You want to make sure that you're maximizing your investment.
Let me ask you a question. I live in a house that was built in '56. Can you retrofit? Is it possible to come in and do spray foam insulation?
A large part of our business is and retrofit existing homes. Again, 30% of energy costs can be attributed to air leakage.
30%?
By replacing that existing insulation with spray foam insulation,
Right.
you're automatically starting to save money. In a lot of cases, can even pay for itself within 4 to 5 years' time.
How do I decide which one I want? Because you said one's a little more cost effective, one's a little more expensive, but from a quality standpoint, you got what you pay for.
To decide that, let's revisit some of the other issues with traditional forms of insulation. Not only is air leakage a big problem with that, but also you're allowing the intrusion of moisture into your home, which could lead to mold growth and mold spore development.
I listened to you.
Absolutely.
Rodents,
Dust,
I got this.
dust, pollen, pollutants are allowed into your home
Yes.
because of this air leakage. In addition to that,
I mean, that's a big deal. We're laughing about it. But,
we are.
Right?
And the tiniest little cracks in this can allow bugs, roaches, even rodents to get into your attic and your home. Not only those problems, but traditional forms of insulation deteriorate over time. Not only will it create a dust that gets introduced into your attic and eventually into your home, but it also
that.
loses its insulation value, its RValue. Its
And
resistance to
Exactly.
changes in temperature.
And-
Also, as this
Listen to him.
deterioration occurs, it will shrink some and allow those air gaps and that air leakage to increase over time as
I
well.
would say you really know what you're talking about and you enjoy it too. One of the things that I do want to stress is being professional. I mean, your group, your staff is spot on.
We love
I mean,
what we do, and we love being part of an eco-friendly environment. We work with builders quite well. We enjoy helping people to be able to buy a more cost-effective home for years to come.
I mean, it makes sense. I keep going back to these two.
Let's talk about
Please.
why you would choose one form of spray foam insulation over another. In a retrofit environment, quite often people's concern is to save money on energy costs.
True.
And if that is my only concern, I would go with an open cell spray foam. Open cell foam expands much quicker, much larger, but it doesn't have some of the advantages that the closed cell foam does. It will, however, provide a more airtight seal for your attic. It will
Okay.
block out the intrusions of air, moisture, pest, dust, pollens, and pollutants. So all of those things are achieved with either type of spray foam.
What is the procedure? How does this actually go in? Is it literally sprayed?
This is a two-part system that is mixed through hoses. It actually gets combined in the spray gun itself. So all you would see in your home and in your attic would be a long hose
Okay.
and a spray gun. And they spray and apply it below the roof deck.
You said layers. It's really cool.
Well, they will spray it to the required thickness to achieve the R value that you need. These R values are, again, based on the type of foam.
And what's an R value? I'm sorry to interrupt.
R
What
value,
is?
again,
Yes.
is the resistance to temperature change
Okay.
that an insulation material can provide.
And the higher the R value, in other words, if it's 30 degrees, we don't want it to be 30 degrees in here.
That is
Right,
correct.
okay.
And that's a good point. With traditional types of insulation systems, it would be 30 degrees up here. But by using spray foam insulation, we create a semi-controlled environment where actually this attic temperature will stay within 10 to 15 degrees of what your controlled space below is.
And Alan, I asked you about breathable houses, and you said, no, this works with breathing, or it's kind of a misnomer that a house has to breathe.
It is a misnomer. Your home does not have to breathe. However, we do need to be concerned about fresh air sources. When choosing spray foam insulation for new construction homes, it is a possibility that you can get a home very tightly sealed. In those cases, you want to consult with your heating and air professional to make sure that if it is needed, there is a supply of fresh air supplied through a filtered source.
I'll tell you what, he's darn good, isn't he? We're about out of time. I really appreciate it. You promised that you'll come back, and next time you come, we're going to actually make a little
We'll make some foam next time.
That sounds wonderful. Stay with us. We'll be right back. There's a lot more to come here on Lines on Design.
Thank you.